And now for something completely different.
Forget everything you've been told by others before. Get ready for the real deal. The full story. Real talk about money, markets, life. Now, it's The Real Investment Show, presented by RIA Advisors.
Oh, and welcome to Financial Fitness Friday. I am Rich Rosso, certified financial planner, here with Matt Doyle.
Good morning.
I know you usually listen to Chris Salcedo at this hour, but he is out today, back on Monday. So make sure to tune in to Chris back on Monday. So we're looking at, Dow futures overall are firming up in the markets this morning. Dow futures 58, S&P futures up 14, NASDAQ futures up 66. So we're anticipating these negotiations with India on tariffs and also China. So there's some latest talk that maybe the president is going to lower tariffs for negotiations to 80% versus where they were. This is going to be with Scott Bessent. I think Scott Bessent, the new Treasury Secretary, but I feel like he's been there forever. You know, it's amazing how time flies, but it doesn't move. I feel that way in administrations where, you know, obviously this is a fairly new administration, but it feels like we've been in this place for 10 years. Mm-hmm. It's just the way things work. So I think there's nobody better than Scott Bessent. I've been following him for, oh my gosh, I would say at least 10 years. Excellent money manager, great perspectives, very cerebral, very even-keeled. I think him and his group will do a good job. We're anticipating what the tax cuts could look like, and we talked about that in the previous hour, if you haven't been with us. But it's still up in the air whether or not we really get this big, beautiful bill by Memorial Day, probably absolutely not even by 4th of July. And we don't really know what it's going to look like, right? We have some things there that look encouraging, but as financial planners and risk managers, we have to make sure you're making the most tax-efficient decisions out there. So as planners, Matt, I think people who become planners have a thirst for knowledge, and they understand change. They understand that they may need to change their mind and do whatever they have to do. They're not closed-minded to different ideas, different things that change, because we're in a world of change. When we saw the Secure Act come out, for example, right? Or I call the Rothification of America. We went from, oh my gosh, the pre-tax IRAs are the best thing in the world to, well, if you make over $145,000 and you're playing with catch-up provisions, then those have to go into Roth, which happens next year, right? Because the government needs money now, right? We have to help you plan for that. An ever-changing world. So we went into Liberation Day, and we saw, first of all, I was surprised. We anticipated the 10% across the board tariffs. But when the boards came out with all the countries and all the different tariffs and that formula, that was something the market did not anticipate. And we started to step down. And there were all these mainstream media headlines that it's the next great recession and the world's coming to an end. And you've got to be careful of headlines. You've got to look at where we are from. First of all, markets are, I think, a little bit higher from where they were pre-Liberation Day, aren't they, Matt? I think we've recovered all that loss plus.
Yeah.
But regardless of that, because now it's hindsight bias, right? Now it's, well, I knew that was going to happen. No, you didn't. Nobody knew, right? You get all panicky and you look at fear and greed sentiment, and you look at a fear sentiment that is as bad as it was during the financial crisis, when the markets are nowhere near as down as they were during that period of time.
Right.
So there's this great disconnect between this hard data that shows that the economy is doing fine. We talked about the economy slowing down last year for this year because we are moving from a government stimulus, government-driven economy back to the private sector. Listen, that is like balancing plates. I don't know if you ever watched Ed Sullivan when you would watch the guys come out there and balance 3 plates. But we're doing that now in the face of all the changes when it comes to portfolios. One, we are looking to take risk off the table, yet we're looking to add risk on the table for areas of the market that have gotten absolutely beaten up, and at the same time, hedge against volatility. So, I think I like, and this is going to sound crazy, Matt, I like the market better this year than last year.
Well, that sounds just crazy.
Last year, Magnificent Seven, everything else was in the dust. You didn't have to do much. Volatility was completely dead. This year, we're earning our keep on the investment side and the financial planning side, right? If you are a fairly decent stock researcher and selector, and you are looking at certain things we do, like we do opportunistic rebalancing, where we're always circling around each position and buying or selling depending on where they are technically. We can take profits as we did last year when markets were great, go into the year underweight in technology, because remember what this was when we first saw this Liberation Day. It wasn't a wholesale sell-off. It was a fierce rotation from this Magnificent Seven into value stocks, the boring things, food and beverage, healthcare, utilities, bonds did well, gold did well. If you had a balanced portfolio, it was a complete disconnect compared to what you were hearing from legacy media. And this is where you always have to keep, when you're managing your money and you're putting together your financial plan, it's tough, but you've got to look at it outside of politics. You've got to look at it outside of emotions, don't you think?
Yeah, and to what you were hitting on it first, right? I mean, you've got to be able to reevaluate your position because the environment is always dynamic. The environment is changing, and so as planners, one of my big things is there's no wrong answer when it comes to some of these things, right? Whether it's legacy planning, retirement planning, estate planning. Your wishes are what your wishes are. And it's not our job as a planner to say wrong or bad. It's just to say, hey, look, if we do that, this is sort of the implication from a tax perspective. This is the implication from an investment perspective, because in the end, folks want to know, can I achieve that goal? I want to sustain my lifestyle. I want to enjoy this. I want to enjoy that. And then the news that comes out and we disseminate that and build investment portfolios, we have to adapt to it. There's 2 lines of thoughts in the market, and you can go to your Vanguard real cheap, and they're going to tell you now's always the time to buy, and they don't care if the market's up or down. You're going to get 20% in large cap whatevers because that's the way their models are built.
Yep. We're going to continue this discussion when we get back. Stay tuned.
Get daily investment news you can use, delivered at the speed of the internet at realinvestmentadvice.com.
The Real Investment Show YouTube page has all of our videos ready for your easy access. From 3 minutes on markets and money to each day's radio shows like Technically Speaking Tuesday, Financial Fitness Friday, and the latest analysis from Lance Roberts and Michael Leibowitz. Subscribe and bookmark our YouTube channel for The Real Investment Show, or just click on the show links at realinvestmentadvice.com.
RIA Advisors Research is the envy of the industry. Our economic insights are featured on advisorperspectives.com, Fox Business, and MarketWatch. RIA provides advisors with marketing and back office support, objective research, and holistic, cutting-edge financial planning tools to meet your clients' needs. Want to join a winning team and be part of a fiduciary culture where you can do your best work? Then why haven't you contacted us yet? Go to our confidential advisor hub at realinvestmentadvice.com. RIA Advisors. Big enough where it matters, agile enough when it counts.
The Real Investment Show.
Attention Chevron employees and anyone else receiving or considering a company severance package. We know the process can be intimidating. What should you know to maximize your payout? Lump sum or pension annuity, retirement plan rollover or not? What about tax timing your severance? The fiduciary advisors at RIA Advisors can help you make the best decisions for your situation. Call us today at 855-742-7526. That's 855-742-PLAN or online at realinvestmentadvice.com.
And now, another page from the Real Investment Advisors Investing Manifesto. A passive investment portfolio requires active risk management. It's not a choice, it's necessity. Diversification doesn't protect against risk of loss. Let us actively help you reach your financial goals with RIA Advisors. Neither bull nor bear. RIA Advisors, 281-501-1791 or online at realinvestmentadvice.com.
You're listening to The Real Investment Show.
And welcome back. So market futures are firmly higher this morning. We'll see where we open up. Interestingly, U.S.-China trade talks start tomorrow in Switzerland. So it's going to be interesting to see whether traders want to stay long over the weekend because, boy, the headlines. And there are so many headline risks when it comes to this market. Now, you were talking about Vanguard, and they would say, well, yeah, every dip is a buying opportunity, and don't worry about the Great Recession. Those come and go.
Oh, yeah.
Great Depression, you lose 85% of your money, no big deal.
Yeah, or the other side of the coin. The market's up. You're missing out. Time to get in.
Right. There's got to be something in between that. And I think we are in between that overall. But the one thing I know about you, Matt, is you're never going to get dementia.
No?
No, because there's a new study that suggests that curious minds don't get dementia, or they reduce dementia risk.
What was that?
Yeah. So think about this. A lot of I already forgot what you said. Older adults go back to take classes, pick up hobbies, or engage in bird watching. Oh, I have one bird I feed. Now, I am the animal whisperer. I feed squirrels every morning. They know when I'm ready. I've got a cup, and I put peanuts in it, and I shake it up, and when I come out, it looks like Dr. Doolittle exploded. There are squirrels everywhere. One day, it's going to be like Willard. I'm going to be dead, and it's going to be squirrels all over my body. But I walk out, and they have a feeder, and I put the feeder down, and all the squirrels come to the feeder. But I have one bluebird every day, huge, that comes and takes a peanut.
Just one.
So he waits, this bluebird waits, all the squirrels frenzy, and then this bird finds its opportunity to come and take a peanut. It's one of the most beautiful bluebirds I've ever seen, but I've never seen that before. And the bird comes every day.
Oh, wow.
How do you like that, Brent?
It's got a bomb sight.
It's sort of like that.
Yeah.
He dives in, and he's gone before even a squirrel can enter the feeder.
Kamikaze peanut.
Yeah, I am beyond bird watching, but the most important thing I will tell you, so it shows in this study that if you have a level of curiosity, you will keep sharp as you age. That makes a lot of sense, even without a study. So this was 1,200 adults between 20 and 84 with an average age of 44. 63 questions were asked, 20 seconds for every answer. And participants also rated their curiosity to learn the answer and their confidence in having the right answer. And they had questions like this. What is added to white sugar to make brown sugar? Brent? He says, molasses. What is the name of the biggest constellation in the sky? No, it's not Superman. It's Hydra. So it found that participants' interests in learning new information from trivia, just a measure of curiosity, helped them ward off signs of dementia. Now, think about this.
They didn't take this study at my house because when I was growing up, the Trivial Pursuit game invariably ended with the board being turned over.
Well, that was a physical fitness thing, right? You got up, you jumped, I never stop learning. I never stop reading. I am endless when it comes to curiosity. I think in our job as financial advisors, you have to be that way. I don't think you can ever stop learning in this job. What do you think?
No, because it always changes. And, for the extent, and I'll even admit it right now on the air and admit it all the time to clients. I mean, I enjoy it. I nerd out on it. And I don't mind being called a nerd for all of this stuff. We're fortunate
we
to
are
have.
calling you that. We call you a lot of things.
Oh,
Nerd
geez.
is definitely up there.
Yeah. Well, but we're fortunate to have Lance and Mike, running portfolios. They nerd out on that. And that's their bailiwick. So, we all have our little areas of expertise. But yeah, I would much rather read an article on taxes than some politician said something this or that or some nonsense about some celebrity. I don't care what Selena Gomez's wart says about whatever.
If her wart's talking, I want to know. I definitely do. But I agree with you.
The 13 best ways to tell what steak your dog wants. Those aren't articles I'm interested in.
The headline fodder is amazing, isn't it?
Yeah.
The clickbait is at an all-time high, and that's not going to change. Imagine if you had an AI program and said, remove all clickbait. Your computer screen would just go out. You would have nothing left.
Well, speaking of AI, I saw a very interesting op-ed that there was a woman, she was an English professor, and she just, the point of the article is basically this: why would I take my time to read something that you couldn't be bothered to write?
Wow.
Talking about AI.
Good point.
That's a good point. Well, the reason I'm bringing up this study is what we find is we are there most of the time for pre-retirees to cross over to retirees. And yes, there's a lot of number crunching, but the qualitative effort to make sure that you transition well to retirement, especially for men, has to do with the fact that staying curious, staying social, can really help you ward off signs of dementia, or at least make you feel like, I feel like I'm getting a little soft. It doesn't take long for your mind to go to mush. When we were during COVID and we were busy, but there was like a couple of days of a lull, and you go, my gosh, how do people retire and just sit around and not do anything and
memorize Star Trek episodes?
Yeah. Unless you want to watch Scotty. Scotty was great because there was always a crisis, right? There was never enough speed, never enough warp speed to get us out of anywhere. Yet we always got out. Mm-hmm. We always made it. So the most important thing is you got to keep your mind active when it comes to retirement and overall. We're going to see a lot of changes with the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act. We were talking about in the previous hour is whatever this looks like, it's not going to look the same as it does today. We're talking about a lot of different things. Increase in SALT deduction. We're looking at possibly taxes on individuals and a higher bracket for people who are making $2.5 million or more. We're looking at maybe no taxes on Social Security, which means we would have to get the money from somewhere. What I was surprised, Matt, in this bill is I didn't see an increase in the payroll tax. We're moving the lid off that to pay for the fact that you shouldn't be paying taxes on Social Security.
Right.
So,
well, the payroll tax isn't progressive, right? It's a static number.
It's a static number.
Whatever it is,
right.
14% or whatever it is. But the other thing that we got to see in there too, which I remember hearing a lot about during the campaign, and this was from both sides, was not taxing tips.
That was also.
I haven't heard that.
No, I saw that. I saw that provision in there.
Oh, what?
It's going to be interesting to see. Can we just get paid in tips?
Yeah.
What
Supreme
are
Court
tips?
thinks
Because
so.
it's not just people. Obviously, we are a tipping society. I mean, that's another thing we got to be careful of. Is I go to the car wash now. The tip thing comes up, right? Everywhere you go, you have the ability to enter a tip. For some places that you're going, why am I paying a tip? Why am I even doing this?
There's a community on Reddit. There's a thread on Reddit where people post these things, and like I saw a woman, they got asked for a tip at the self-serve gas pump. She put her credit card in there. She swiped the card, selected her fuel rating, whatever octane level, and then it says, "Do you want to give us a tip for pumping your own gas?"
That's
of all
like you
things.
being at the Walmart at the self-checkout
Yeah,
and then getting asked for a tip.
right.
Putting in a tip.
Yeah.
Maybe that goes back into your pocket
Right.
since you're now a Walmart employee. No. Brent says no.
No, it's got to pay the Walton's dividend.
So the definition of tip is going to be, to me alone, interesting. It's going to, let's just say it's going to arouse a lot of curiosity based on what that is going to be considered. So we got a lot of changes, and obviously the market is prone to headline risk, and you've got to sort of keep your cool through that process. So obviously we have portfolios that are designed right now to manage volatility, but at the same time, we know you're going to take losses. But I am still astounded as to how the market rebounded, which shows you that markets and economies don't align all the time, right? We got all this talk of Great Recession, even though the hard date is fine, and the fear of where it is today, as what compared to where it was in the Great Recession, it's about the same when markets were down closer to 50%. That is just amazing to me. I don't think, and you and I, Matt, have been through a lot of cycles. I don't think I've ever seen that before, where there was such a difference between what is actually going on in markets and how people are feeling about it.
Yeah. And people adjust their spending and their behavior based on their emotions. So if enough people feel negative, it's almost a self-fulfilling prophecy, right? I mean,
that's right.
We'll talk ourselves into a recession.
We absolutely will do that. We'll be right back.
The Real Investment Advice blog. It's required reading for the informed investor. Catch it today at realinvestmentadvice.com.
Are you a financial advisor sneaking peeks at our stuff? Instead of trying to do it all yourself, why not just join the team at RIA Advisors? Our full-service organization can provide you with the support, unparalleled research, and tools for managing your clients' money and honoring the fiduciary pledge of putting clients' best interest first. Don't take our word for it. Talk to the advisors that work with us. Want to come win with us? Go to our confidential advisor hub at realinvestmentadvice.com. RIA Advisors, big enough where it matters, agile enough when it counts.
If you're working and looking to retire soon, a Medicare special enrollment period is in your future. Understanding Medicare choices, enrollment deadlines, and costs are essential to your overall standard of living in retirement. The wrong choices can cost you thousands in penalties. Make sense of Medicare's alphabet soup with RIA Advisors, online resources, and one-on-one partners to help secure the healthcare insurance choice that is right for your lifestyle and budget and avoid gaps in coverage. Click on the insurance tab at realinvestmentadvice.com today. realinvestmentadvice.com.
The Real Investment Show.
And now, another page from the Real Investment Advisors Investing Manifesto. Bulls win in bull markets. Bears win in bear markets. Eagles soar above and take advantage of opportunity. Let us help you soar as you reach your financial goals with RIA Advisors. Neither bull nor bear. RIA Advisors, 281-501-1791 or online at realinvestmentadvice.com.
Can't catch the whole show now? Listen to our podcast later at realinvestmentadvice.com.
Talk about, well, why do you own gold? Well, I own gold because if everything collapses, it won't matter anyway. You're not going to survive more than 7 days. I don't care if you've got gold or not.
The Real Investment Show podcast.
You don't know how to go out and forage for food. You don't know how to go out and hunt. You've been sitting around your house watching television with your feet propped up, drinking beer for 12 years.
Same show, your schedule.
Danny Ratliff is one. He's going to survive just fine. He's in South Africa right now. He's out there with a knife and Rambo paint on and stalking predatory animals. He'll survive just fine. My next door neighbor with the drill, he ain't gonna make it. No chance.
At realinvestmentadvice.com.
If economic Armageddon happens, pack it up, buddy. You're done.
The Real Investment Show.
Attention Chevron employees and anyone else receiving or considering a company severance package. We know the process can be intimidating. What should you know to maximize your payout? Lump sum or pension annuity, retirement plan rollover or not? What about tax timing your severance? The fiduciary advisors at RIA Advisors can help you make the best decisions for your situation. Call us today at 855-742-7526. That's 855-742-PLAN. Or online at realinvestmentadvice.com.
The Real Investment Show YouTube channel has all our videos ready for your easy access. Now with the new and improved Before the Bell reports, plus each day's radio shows, Technically Speaking Tuesday, Financial Fitness Friday, and the latest analysis from Lance Roberts and Michael Leibowitz. Subscribe and bookmark our YouTube channel at realinvestmentadvice.com.
You're listening to The Real Investment Show.
And welcome back. So you may be charitably inclined, and that's great. Some of you might not get a tax benefit from it because you don't itemize. That's okay. But there's something out there called QCDs, Qualified Charitable Deductions, and it's very popular. So up to $100,000, and you're 70 and a half years old, and you want to gift money from your IRA account to qualified charities. It's become very popular. But there was no way that the IRS identified those. A couple of years ago, Matt, I noticed, because we have a lot of clients that will go ahead and gift from their IRA to their designated charities. And there is legislation out there right now to add donor-advised funds to the list. So right now, you want to make a donation from your IRA, you're at least 70 and a half years old, to charities. It's a fairly manual process, not for you, but your custodian, say it's Fidelity or Schwab or anywhere else, to go ahead and cut checks from those accounts to the respective charities. But there's something called donor-advised funds, where you can go ahead and have a really your own foundation where money will move into an account and then were highly appreciated assets, and then that stock sold and diversified, and then you will get a deduction when that money is moved. And then you choose when that money goes to the charity.
Well,
go ahead.
With the QCD, you don't have to itemize. It doesn't matter. You're going to get that benefit regardless because
exactly.
So you have a $200,000, just making up numbers here. You have a $200,000 RMD. you give $100,000 to charity, that $100,000 just comes right off the top.
It comes right off the top.
So it doesn't even hit the top line of your 1040. It's just gone. So if you were to do that and you were to say, hey, there's this charity that I really like, but I don't want to give them $100,000 right now. I want to give them $100,000, $10,000 a year over the next 10 years. That I could see a great benefit in using those donor advised funds for that very reason.
Absolutely.
When my mom passed away, actually, she had a provision in her will that a certain percentage of her estate was to go to charity, and we put it in a donor advised fund. And my dad and my dad and my sister and I, we sort of every so often get together and decide, who to give money to. And it's a great way for families to get together and, sort of have discussions around supporting the community or what's important to them. It's a good touch point, I think. Good legacy.
And actually, I think this would be a smart idea for you to be able to transfer QCD money into the donor advised, to your point, because then we can decide later. The money will go to charity. Mm-hmm. It's just that we'll decide when that money will happen. And to your point, can spur conversation about different charities. Maybe did your mom have any particular charities in mind, or she left it up to you to say, hey, you all pick the charities that would be appropriate?
Yeah, no, she left it wide open. I mean,
that's great.
So, I mean, everybody's got their own different things that they're interested in,
Mm-hmm.
Save the Whales or the church or a scholarship fund or whatever it might be. There's so many wonderful charities out there to give to, but you can't give to all of them. And I think that's also part of the point of, wanting to be able to have the flexibility and disperse money over a period of time instead of a big chunk, because, in the nonprofit space, you give that charity $100,000, they're going to budget for that next year too. Right. And so you'll get the phone call, hey, you gave to us last year, why don't you give to us this year? So leveling that out, you give them $1, they'll ask for 10. Not that it's a bad thing, right? I mean, these folks are doing good work, but managing that expectation too can be a good benefit to you as well.
It can. So I don't know if that's going to go through. So again, what these qualified charitable deductions is an investor 70 and a half or older can use that QCD to transfer money up to the limit directly from the IRA to a charity without paying the tax, right? And that also would count if that individual has, of course, the required minimum distribution. Do you remember before it was codified that we didn't know until December of the year whether or not we could even do a QCD? Mm-hmm. Remember, it was that much havoc of, oh my gosh, is this going to come back? Are people able to do this? And then there was this year-end rush.
Right.
So, and this is according to Ed Slott. Ed is a tax master. The IRA custodian historically was not required to report a QCD. There is never a code on form which you would get 1099-R from a distribution to identify it. So you would have tax preparers that have possibly missed it. So at least tax preparers would know now to do that. And I did have a client that it was missed and it was looked at as a distribution. And we had to go back and say, no, that was a qualified charitable distribution. So the taxpayer had to let the IRS know about the distribution. Now at least there'll be a code, because again, this has become a very popular way to gift money.
And to your point, it does make it a lot easier, because the IRS and tax court is the exact opposite of the way American courts are supposed to work, right? In American courts, you're presumed to be innocent until you're proved guilty, but in tax court, you're guilty unless you can prove you're innocent. And so having a paper trail, a backup of that distribution actually did go to a qualified charity, just makes your life easier instead of having to come back later after the fact and find a thank you letter from charity whatever from 5 years ago.
Mm-hmm. In some ways, the custodians, like if you have your money with Fidelity, they have safeguarded this to some degree, because you can't, because they have people who go, oh, well, I can just send the checks. No, you can't.
Right.
We have to fill out a form per charity, then it would go ahead and be filled. So you might be thinking about, you had a great year last year, right? You may still have some gains. Again, the S&P is down roughly 4% for the year. You didn't lose all your gains from last year if you had a balanced portfolio, and you may decide that this year you want a tax plan and you want to give some to charity, you never thought about using your IRA, you absolutely can look to do so overall. So I think it's a really good point. Sometimes there are good changes. And that donor advised fund idea might be a really good way to do it. So again, we have trade talks tomorrow in Switzerland over China. I think their trade deals with it. Okay. All right. We have financial advice for single moms coming up. Would he's squirrel. He totally threw me off.
Somebody came out with the corn.
Yeah. Regardless of the headlines, now Dow futures are up higher. Futures are firming up. As trade deals get done, we have less uncertainty in the market. Okay. Now, we have seen studies. Obviously, nobody likes tariffs, but the Yale Budget Lab did a study. Pretty good one, too. Tariffs do not mean recession, as much as there's that linkage out there in the mainstream media and headline fodder, okay? Tariffs can reduce GDP between 0.5 and 1 percentage point. That's not great, but it's not recession, right? And if we go up, say we go to, and the president mentioned that recently, it's a headline today, that the baseline of 10% tariffs on most countries are going to stay, right? So that is less than the current rates in the Budget Lab's model, which means its estimates for the effect on economic growth will be smaller. So if we get an increase in prices, higher interest rates, slight rise in unemployment, but what they're trying to say is that you might get much less of an effect on GDP negatively with that across the board, and that the U.S. can handle it. You know, we have to wait and see what it means to markets. But just the fact, and I don't think the markets are perceiving tariffs as a positive, Matt, but I think is the fact that we might get certainty. The market can deal with that part of it.
Right.
You know, it may not like it, and it may shift sectors or how maybe you're going to invest to some degree, and we monitor those trends. The certainty of knowing what those tariffs are going to be. For example, when President Trump first came out with that 10% across the board, the market expected that. It was all the other stuff that came out at the same time. When I was watching, I was going, what is this? Right? When he went through each country and that formula, he'd sort of surprised the market at that point. When the market understood that it was going to be 10% across the board, and I think if that would have been the case, I think if he would have said, hey, listen, it's 10% across the board, and then we're negotiating country by country. Some countries we have a trade surplus, okay, but some we have a deficit because guess what? We don't produce rubber over here in the United States. Although Goodyear is coming up with some form of synthetic rubber that I've read some of the studies that look amazing. But it's inevitable that we would have trade deficits with some of these countries.
Yeah.
So as long as we are starting to get deals done, volatility in the market is going to settle down.
Yeah. Well, uncertainty just doesn't work in life. Can you imagine going to a restaurant and not knowing how much you're going to pay for your meal, and the meal changing every 5 seconds before, it gets to you? Or going to the grocery store and filling up your cart and not being able to trust the price that's written on the shelf?
Same thing. We'll be right back.
Get daily investment news you can use, delivered at the speed of the internet at realinvestmentadvice.com.
Attention Chevron employees and anyone else receiving or considering a company severance package. We know the process can be intimidating. What should you know to maximize your payout? Lump sum or pension annuity, retirement plan rollover or not? What about tax timing your severance? The fiduciary advisors at RIA Advisors can help you make the best decisions for your situation. Call us today at 855-742-7526. That's 855-742-PLAN. Or online at realinvestmentadvice.com.
In 1999, a parafiduciary group of financial advisors were busted by corporate giants for trying to operate in their clients' best interest. These men promptly escaped from a high-cost margin environment to the Houston Energy Corridor. Today, still excoriated by their former employers, they survive as protectors of others' fortunes. If you have a problem about preserving capital, if no one else can help, and you can find them right here, maybe you should hire the RIA team.
The Real Investment Show.
RIA Advisors Research is the envy of the industry. Our economic insights are featured on advisorperspectives.com, Fox Business, and MarketWatch. RIA provides advisors with marketing and back office support, objective research, and holistic, cutting-edge financial planning tools to meet your clients' needs. Want to join a winning team and be part of a fiduciary culture where you can do your best work? Then why haven't you contacted us yet? Go to our confidential advisor hub at realinvestmentadvice.com. RIA Advisors. Big enough where it matters, agile enough when it counts.
And now, another page from the Real Investment Advisors Investing Manifesto. Manage risk and volatility rather than trying to manage gains. You don't have to be right all the time. Long-term investing success is a 70% gain. Let us help you reach your financial goals with RIA Advisors. Neither bull nor bear. RIA Advisors. 281-501-1791 or online at realinvestmentadvice.com.
You're listening to The Real Investment Show.
Well, Mother's Day is coming up, and we will spend billions of dollars catering to mom, whether it's eating out or greeting cards. And we just read a study in the previous hour about how Gen Z is the most generous, perhaps because they're living in mom's basement. In Texas, in this case, the attic. Hopefully it's insulated. Otherwise, that kid's going to be crisp. But couple of things. Our demographics in the United States are terrible. Nobody's having children. I mean, it's better than most areas of the world. Housing formation is down. Our demographics are poor, and demographics are economics. That's just the way it is. We need more people paying taxes. Listen, when it comes to Social Security, you've got one worker now paying for two retirees. We're an aging population, but there are single moms. And they need help from their financial advisors. So some ideas that single moms need. I was brought up by a single mom who really didn't want to work, and I don't think she could. But one of the things that I was always sensitive to was an emergency fund, Matt. Mm-hmm. We were living check to check, and we never had bandwidth in case anything came up. We didn't have a reliable income source, so it was tough to save. But when we did have a little money saved, emotionally, we felt better. And there was less friction between me and my mom when we did that.
Right.
So even when I started working at like 12 years old, I had a paper route. I had one of the largest paper routes in Brooklyn, New York. At 4 o'clock in the morning, I'd be out there delivering papers through all areas of Brooklyn. Never felt unsafe. I wouldn't do it today because I probably would lose all the papers and the bike and everything else. But the help of a critical safety net of an emergency fund, I think, is crucially important. And you just start small. So with us at RIA, we believe in something called the financial vulnerability cushion, where you should have at least 2 years of living expenses in cash. I understand that that's difficult. 1 year of expenses in case anything goes wrong. The air conditioner breaks down, the car breaks down. But what if you lose your job? What if there's an illness? So to me, yes, you want a realistic budget, but you want to try to prioritize or come up with a financial hierarchy to save as a single mom. And I think because single mom will go, oh my gosh, I got to save for college and I got to save for retirement. And nothing happens unless you have a buffer to prevent you from hitting up the credit cards. What do you think?
Yeah, and I mean the credit piece too is something that's difficult, especially for divorced folks. I mean, a lot of times, one individual in the household will have the majority of the credit in their name, and then after divorce, and I've seen this a couple times in my career. What do? I don't have any credit in my own name. So having your own accounts. I'm not saying hide money or anything of that nature, but having your own credit record is important. So that's a real key piece of advice for ladies that might be looking at the potentiality of divorce or not. I mean, just even having your own record for your own benefit is a good place to be. Absolutely. But yeah, I mean, who knows what the world's going to bring and all of that, and it's difficult, So having a hierarchy of needs, there's the need to make sure that we're safe, and safe isn't only in terms of physical safety, but financial safety, and that's where that vulnerability cushion comes in.
Well, you got to spread the dollars, right? So sometimes, and I've worked with a lot of single parents, it's overwhelming because maybe they have multiple goals. So we've got to prioritize those, right? Because you want to maybe plan for retirement and a child's education. And sometimes it feels so overwhelming, you're frozen. You don't do anything. You may even have analyzed your budget and you have the free cash flow, at least some dollars. And what I try to do is help any single parent and anybody say, listen, you just got to get started. No one is going to say if it's $25 a month or 50, whatever it is. The fact that you got started is important. And you've got to really understand something we didn't have was, and it's important, guardianships.
Right.
What if you're gone? Single mom or single dad gone? Who is going to be the guardian? You must do that or the courts are going to decide for you.
Make sure those documents are up to date.
Have to do it.
Absolutely.
You also have to consider, and I worked with a single mom on this not too long ago, but she wasn't filing as head of household on her tax forms. I'm like, and which allows for additional leeway or benefits that you would get otherwise, say, filing single, right? She was the head of household. She was providing the majority of the dependent care. But you also have, you have an employer. You might get matching in your 401k or your 403b. Invest up to that match. Don't give away the free money. What about dependent care accounts? Don't watch for tax credits that you are able to get. A tax credit is a dollar for dollar reduction of your tax bill. So I think that's important. And then understanding those trade-offs between saving for retirement and saving for your child's education. Listen, I don't care if you're a single mom or a single dad or not. Parents forsake their retirement planning to pay for the kids' college.
Sure. They will.
And we've seen studies, right? Yeah. How much are parents paying to keep their adult children in some form of lifestyle?
Correct. And in the end, to your point, I mean, a ship doesn't just turn around. You don't just do a 180 in a massive ship, right? You've got your life that's been going this direction. You find all of a sudden you're a single mother. You're not going to just make a shift, and of course, correction takes time. So to your point, starting small. When John and I are doing planning for clients, that's one of the first points we try to make is that, we're not going to tackle this whole thing in one meeting, right? We're going to slowly eat away at this big elephant that's in front of us, but eventually we'll get the whole thing digested. And so same thing for single moms. It may seem like, well, I got to save for this, I got to save for that, and there's these other expenses that are out there. But just to your point, Rich, get started, right? Get the ball moving in that direction, and you'll find that it becomes easier and easier over time to make headway. And things tend to snowball, right? Just because of the power of compounding numbers, the earlier you start, the better off you're going to be.
Living with my mom growing up, the reason I got a job at 12 years old was the fact that we didn't have any money. And if I wanted my own things, plus maybe if we wanted some additional stuff, some groceries, that maybe I would have to pick up the slack. I didn't like it at the time, but then I really liked it. Like when I started working and I got this paper out for the Daily News, I was thriving on that, like getting up, doing my paper route before school in the mornings, and going all over the city and delivering. I don't know. I think I had like 50 or 60 papers at the time, and then on Friday afternoons I had to go and collect the money, and that was all after school. You go right there with your little book. Do you have your $1.25 for the week? Was there a tip in there? Hopefully, but that gave us some leeway, some breathing room. Believe it or not, at the time. To me, if I wanted to buy the latest edition of Terror Tales, or something else horrific, my mother would screech at when I opened the cover. What the heck? Is that a woman with no head? Yes. Yes, Mom, it is. Should I sleep with one eye open?
She locks the door when she goes to bed.
You should. No lie. Yeah. Well, we only had one bedroom, so we would swap. One night she was in the bed, then I was on the couch, and we'd go back and forth. So I actually learned the appreciation of $1 actually growing up with a single mom, only because of the fact that it made me understand that every dollar was crucial and where it went. And I started keeping budgets, and that helped me a lot. Then I started keeping my mother's budget, which was horrific. Yeah. So there are certain habits that are positives that come out of this. Any kind of you go through some sort of financial derail or setback, you learn from it. Mm-hmm. And I think you don't want to go through it, but once you're through it, I think it makes you better. What do you think, man? It makes you more resilient. It helps you to understand the appreciation of having some savings and paying yourself first.
Yeah. And
you don't need this immediate gratification. What does President Trump say? Well, how many dolls do you need? Well, I had a Barbie doll that was in with the G.I. Joe dolls. We're not going to talk about it. But I didn't need my parents change. I need Mom changing my gender because I had a Barbie doll in with the G.I. Joe headquarters. She was just there.
Yeah.
Helped to keep the maps all in order.
I'm not sure which half of the battle she was fighting for, but she was there.
She scheduled the missions.
Yeah.
Yeah, no,
that's
she did.
Yeah, that's terrific.
And then one day she was missing, and I don't know what happened. Mom made her disappear. You never had a Barbie doll. I didn't. I did this morning. No, you didn't. Okay.
She taught you gaslighting as one of the
ultimate gaslighting. It was a contact sport. You never owned this toy.
Yeah.
I didn't. I never owned it. No.
She Jedi mind tricked you at 11.
Let me tell you. She was way ahead of the game. Politicians could have learned a lot from her. So also I think the key for single moms is budgeting. And I know nobody likes the budget word, but that is absolutely important. But no matter what, the one thing I know most of you are going to do this weekend is appreciate your mom.
Give Mom a hug.
Give Mom a hug. If she's here, give her a hug. If she's not, say your silent words to her. She's listening. And she's watching you every minute. Mm-hmm. Take that for what it's worth, Chris Salcedo. Chris is back on Monday. Lance is back on Monday. Before Chris, you all have a great Mother's Day weekend. Thanks for listening.
Thanks for tuning in.